She thought she was building a life with the man she loved, but after stealing $2.2 million to fund his luxury lifestyle, she went to prison and discovered the truth he hid from everyone: 7 secret children, 7 different women, and a trail of lies that destroyed countless lives, including hers. Lena Hart lived an ordinary life built on structure and routine, a life that rarely changed from one week to the next. She woke early, kept her desk tidy, and treated every spreadsheet like a puzzle only she could solve. At 35, she had never been in trouble, never taken a risk, and never imagined herself as anything other than a reliable accountant in a quiet Phoenix office. Her world felt safe but small, predictable but empty, and she often filled the silence with online browsing, fitness videos, and the occasional scroll through lifestyle pages she admired from afar. Everything shifted the day she first came across Malik Cross online. His photos displayed confidence she had never felt. His world looked bright, busy, and exciting, a sharp contrast to her muted existence. She followed him without thinking much about it, enjoying the escape his posts provided. When she later saw him in person at a local fitness expo, something inside her stirred. Malik stood out effortlessly: athletic build, polished appearance, effortless swagger. Crowd members recognized him from social media, and he absorbed the attention as if he was born for it. Lena felt invisible at work and at home, yet Malik made her feel seen simply by existing near her. She didn't speak to him, but the encounter stayed with her. It made her imagine a version of herself she had never considered: someone desirable, someone worth noticing, someone capable of stepping out of the quiet life she had built. Without fully understanding what was happening, Lena began monitoring Malik's content more closely, studying his lifestyle and choices. She believed that people like him lived a life of purpose and excitement, and she convinced herself she wanted to move toward that world, unaware that this single fascination would lead her into the darkest chapter of her life. Malik's online presence grew brighter by the day, and Lena found herself drawn deeper into the glow. His life looked effortless: luxury gyms, rooftop photos, weekend trips that seemed spontaneous, and a constant stream of new outfits. Lena assumed he handled everything with ease, but she began to notice subtle details he didn't intend to show. A caption about a surprise bill, a story hinting at late rent, or a quick mention of a cancelled brand payment suggested cracks beneath the polished surface. These small glimpses made her feel closer to him, as if she understood a hidden part of his struggle. Lena started covering tiny expenses to feel connected to his world. A meal here, a new pair of shoes there, always justified as support for someone she admired. She acted quietly, telling herself it meant nothing. Malik never directly asked, he simply lived in a way that made help feel necessary. When he posted about missed opportunities due to unplanned costs, Lena stepped in without hesitation, convinced she was making a meaningful difference. Her personal savings disappeared faster than she expected. When she could no longer keep up, she looked for ways to stretch her money, then ways to temporarily move company funds with the intention of putting everything back. The first adjustment at work seemed harmless, just a shift between accounts that no one would notice. Each small decision slid into another. She told herself it was just until Malik secured bigger sponsorships, just until he stabilized his brand, just until everything made sense again. The more she gave, the more he showcased. His lifestyle elevated while her financial stability crumbled. She believed supporting him would eventually bring her into his world, unaware she was slowly stepping into danger that would reshape her life forever. The first stolen $1,000 happened on a quiet Thursday afternoon when the office felt empty and her supervisor was out for meetings. Lena sat at her desk staring at an invoice that she knew could be manipulated without raising suspicion. She had already rehearsed the idea in her mind for weeks, convincing herself it was harmless and temporary. One small transfer, hidden inside a larger payment, would never stand out. With trembling hands, she made the adjustment, moved the money to a vendor account she controlled, and waited for a surge of panic. Instead, she felt a strange calm settle over her. When no alarms were raised in the following days, that calm transformed into confidence. She told herself she would put the money back the moment she could, once Malik started earning enough from his growing audience. But Malik's needs continued expanding. New photo shoots, upgraded gym memberships, and short trips to maintain his image challenged Lena's ability to keep up. What began as an isolated act soon turned into a pattern she justified as borrowing. 1,000 became several thousand. She learned how to spread the transfers across multiple departments, ensuring that each amount appeared insignificant. Her knowledge of internal processes became her strongest weapon. She created new vendor names, coded payments cleverly, and stored documents in places few employees ever checked. With every successful move, her fear faded and was replaced by a quiet thrill, an emotion she had never experienced in her predictable life. As Malik's lifestyle grew flashier online, she felt responsible for his rising popularity. She believed she was helping him reach something extraordinary. She didn't recognize how deeply she had crossed the line. What she viewed as support was becoming a dangerous addiction, and each stolen dollar tightened the trap she built around herself. With Lena's steady flow of hidden money, Malik's world expanded faster than she ever expected. He upgraded from small local gyms to high-end facilities with rooftop pools and personal filming studios. Every week, he appeared in a new location, Los Angeles one day, Las Vegas the next, capturing footage that made his followers believe he was unstoppable. His posts received thousands of likes, and comments praised his discipline and lifestyle. To the outside world, he looked like a man on the rise. Behind the scenes, Lena quietly fueled every piece of that image, watching from her modest apartment as he lived the life she financed. Malik rented a sleek apartment downtown with glass walls and a balcony overlooking the city. He filled it with designer furniture, expensive lighting, and equipment meant for perfect content creation. He purchased limited edition sneakers, tailored jackets, and watches he showcased in nearly every photo. Lena saw each item and felt a strange pride, as if his accomplishments reflected her own worth. She believed she was helping him build a future that would eventually include her, even if he never said anything to confirm it. As Malik's visibility grew, brands began contacting him, but their offers were modest compared to what he displayed online. He needed to maintain the illusion of success, and Lena made sure he never fell short. She continued transferring money, each time more efficiently than before. With every gift or upgrade she funded, she convinced herself it strengthened their connection. While Malik's fame blossomed, Lena became more isolated. She avoided friends, skipped family gatherings, and spent her free time tracking his online engagement. She didn't see that she was fading into the background of her own life. Malik shined brighter than ever, but Lena was slowly becoming invisible, except in the financial records she hoped no one would ever uncover. By the end of 3 years, Lena no longer recognized the numbers she handled. What began as scattered transfers had turned into a carefully engineered system of fraud that only she understood. The total amount taken reached $2.2 million before she even paused to calculate it. Malik's lifestyle demanded constant funding, luxury condos, new cars, last-minute flights, and a steady rotation of expensive accessories that kept his online image polished. Each purchase felt like a necessary piece of the brand he was building, and Lena believed that supporting him meant investing in a life they would eventually share. But the transactions accumulated faster than she imagined. She noticed small gaps in her spreadsheets, payments that didn't balance as neatly as before, and digital trails that required more effort to conceal. Her confidence began to crack. She found herself staying late at the office, shifting numbers, renaming files, and reorganizing folders to maintain the illusion of normal operations. Her coworkers started commenting on odd discrepancies that appeared during routine reviews. Questions increased. A senior manager requested access to files she had intentionally hidden. The pressure tightened around her. Meanwhile, Malik never slowed down. His world grew louder, brighter, and more extravagant. He posted daily from upscale hotels, high-profile gyms, and rooftop events crowded with influencers. Each update reminded Lena why she kept pushing forward, even as her anxiety increased. She convinced herself that once he reached a certain level of fame, everything would stabilize, and she could quietly stop the transfers. Instead, the opposite occurred. An internal audit was ordered after unusual vendor names appeared repeatedly. Lena tried to stay composed, but she felt the unraveling begin. The routine she once controlled had slipped into chaos, and the empire she built in secret was now dangerously close to collapsing around her. The internal audit team began its review quietly, but Lena sensed danger the moment they requested older financial records she had carefully altered. They examined vendor lists, traced payment histories, and reopened archived invoices she thought she had buried deep enough to avoid detection. When the auditors flagged one unfamiliar vendor name, the atmosphere around her shifted. Patterns she once believed were untraceable suddenly appeared suspicious when viewed with fresh scrutiny. Every document they requested tightened the invisible grip around her, and the calm she had clung to began slipping. IT specialists joined the investigation and pulled login data, recovery files, and hidden metadata from her computer. Lena watched as they walked through the office carrying printouts, whispering, and moving into closed-door meetings. She felt coworkers observing her differently, pausing conversations when she approached, exchanging quick looks she couldn't ignore. Each passing day revealed another gap she had overlooked. The structure she built so confidently was unraveling in front of her. At home, she scrolled through Malik's posts with shaking hands. He continued living carelessly, showing off new trips, new meals, new outfits, never acknowledging the turmoil she faced. His life remained glossy and untouched, while hers filled with dread. She barely slept, replaying years of decisions, hoping for an impossible escape. The breaking point arrived on a Tuesday morning. 2 federal agents walked into her office alongside the company director. They instructed her to gather her items and follow them. Lena didn't argue. She felt numb as she was escorted past silent co-workers toward the exit. By afternoon, news outlets had published the story of the accountant accused of stealing $2.2 million. As Lena sat in a holding room awaiting questioning, Malik posted another smiling photo from Miami, still unaware, or unconcerned, about the collapse she now faced alone. The case against Lena moved with a speed she had never imagined. Once the federal investigation began, the evidence unfolded in layers: bank transfers, fabricated vendors, altered invoices, and years of digital activity that pointed directly to her. There were no loopholes left to hide behind, no explanations capable of softening the damage. Prosecutors laid out every detail, emphasizing the scale of the theft and the trust she had violated. Lena listened as her entire life was reduced to numbers, dates, and decisions she could no longer justify. Family members who once relied on her stability struggled to understand how the quiet, responsible accountant they knew had crossed such a line. Friends stopped calling. Her employer demanded full restitution, something she knew she could never repay. Lena realized she stood alone, with no defense strong enough to outweigh the truth. Malik didn't appear in court, didn't provide a statement, didn't even acknowledge her situation publicly. He simply continued building his online presence as if she had never existed. His silence cut deeper than any accusation. When the sentence was delivered, 7 years in federal prison, Lena felt the weight settle over her in a cold, final way. She had hoped for leniency, some acknowledgement of the emotional manipulation she had endured, but the system saw only the financial trail she had created. She was taken into custody immediately, leaving behind a life she had already lost long before stepping into the courtroom. Prison introduced a new rhythm she couldn't control. Days became structured, monitored, and stripped of distractions. Malik's world, once bright and consuming, vanished from her reach. The future she imagined evaporated, replaced by the reality of steel doors, routine counts, and the long stretch of years ahead. Lena entered incarceration with nothing left but the consequences of a choice that had reshaped her entire existence. 3 years into her sentence, Lena began to notice that Malik's online shine was fading. It started with small hints: a drop in engagement, rumors in comment sections, and minor controversies he tried to ignore. She didn't follow his accounts anymore, but prison television and passing conversations had a way of revealing pieces of the outside world. One afternoon, during recreation time, a news segment played that caught her attention. It featured an investigative podcast uncovering inconsistencies in Malik's background. The polished image he had spent years building was beginning to fracture. More information surfaced rapidly. Former partners of Malik shared their experiences publicly, describing his pattern of disappearing, borrowing money, and vanishing when responsibilities surfaced. One woman revealed he had a child he rarely acknowledged. Another stepped forward with similar claims. Within weeks, the number grew until it reached seven different women across different states, each raising a child he had fathered and abandoned. The stories painted a picture of a man who had lived on charm, manipulation, and the support of people who trusted him. Lena felt a sharp, hollow sensation as she heard the details. The life she had sacrificed everything to help maintain was built on lies far deeper than she ever realized. She had imagined herself as someone special to him, someone he valued. Now she understood she had been just another resource he pulled from, no different from the others he left behind. The revelations forced Lena to confront truths she had avoided. Malik hadn't needed her support, he had simply used it. The fantasy she once clung to dissolved completely, replacing the pain of betrayal with a quiet recognition of how deeply she had been manipulated. In prison, surrounded by rigid schedules and constant supervision, she finally began to see the reality she had refused to acknowledge when she was free. Lena spent the years that followed piecing together the parts of herself she had ignored for so long. With Malik's truth exposed publicly, she no longer clung to fantasies or imagined futures. Instead, she examined the patterns that had shaped every decision leading up to her downfall. She realized how loneliness had made her vulnerable, how admiration had blurred her judgment, and how desperation for connection had kept her trapped in someone else's life. The silence of prison forced her to face these truths without distraction, pushing her to rebuild her sense of identity from the ground up. She enrolled in every available program, financial accountability classes, emotional resilience workshops, and peer support groups. Listening to others share their stories helped her see that manipulation came in many forms and that she wasn't alone in falling for a crafted persona. The other women spoke openly about charmers, users, and people who exploited vulnerability. Their experiences echoed pieces of her own journey, offering understanding she never found outside. Working long hours in the laundry room gave her structure. Folding uniforms and organizing supplies allowed her to feel useful again. Routine replaced chaos, and she began recognizing the strength she once overlooked. Lena wrote in journals, documenting the choices she regretted, the warnings she ignored, and the beliefs she needed to unlearn. Slowly, the guilt that once consumed her shifted into acceptance. The news about Malik continued to circulate, expanding into documentaries, exposés, and social media debates. Lena watched only fragments, enough to understand that his carefully curated image had fully collapsed. Instead of feeling satisfaction or anger, she felt distance. His downfall no longer tied to her life. She finally understood that the person she had risked everything for had never truly existed, and accepting that truth allowed her to reclaim pieces of herself she thought were lost forever. When Lena walked out of prison after 6 years, the world felt unfamiliar. The noise of traffic sounded sharper, the air felt lighter, and every step reminded her that she was no longer confined by walls and schedules. She carried a small box of belongings, mostly letters and notebooks, and moved into a halfway house arranged by a re-entry program. It wasn't much, but it offered structure and a chance to start again without judgment. She focused on rebuilding her life quietly, aware that the internet still held pieces of her past she could never erase. Finding work proved difficult at first. Many companies hesitated when they saw her record, but a small repair shop eventually offered her a bookkeeping position. The owner cared more about skill than history and gave her a chance to prove herself. The job paid modestly, yet it provided stability and purpose. Lena approached every task with care, determined never to repeat the mistakes that once consumed her. She created routines, attended counseling sessions, and avoided anything that threatened her progress. Malik's scandals continued to unfold during this time. Documentaries exposed his manipulations, financial schemes, and the 7 children he neglected. Social media dissected every detail of his downfall, turning him from a rising influencer into a cautionary tale. Lena watched one episode of the documentary and turned it off halfway. She felt no desire to revisit the past or analyze the man she once believed in. His chaos no longer belonged to her world. Instead, she focused on rebuilding her identity, slowly, steadily, and without seeking validation from anyone. Lena understood she couldn't erase her crime, but she could choose a different path. With quiet determination, she built a life grounded in honesty, boundaries, and the understanding that true worth could only come from within herself, not from someone she once tried to save.